This is the world's tiniest village, and this is the world's largest block. Here are 83 smallest versus largest Minecraft things. This is the tiniest block in Minecraft, and you can barely even see it. You may have seen that by using block displays. We can make a single block the size of a pixel, and this is pretty cool, but we can go even smaller. Block displays can just keep shrinking and shrinking until eventually you're left with a block that's so small you'll probably need tweezers to try and build with it. We can get a slightly better look at this block by shrinking ourselves down as small as we can go, which does make it easier to see, but by replacing this regular cobblestone block with a stone button, we've now got something so tiny I'd probably just mistake it for a speck of dust on my monitor. Seriously, I don't think there's anything else in Minecraft that can get anywhere near this small. This is one of the most impressive things ever created in Minecraft. It's the entire recreation of the Breath of the Wild game inside of Minecraft. It took the creator Grazzy 3 years to build the map, and it's honestly quite satisfying watching how he builds some of these structures. This is definitely one of the largest achievements in all of Minecraft. Have you ever thought that baby villagers look a little too small for the big beds they sleep in? Well, by putting a bed on an armor stand and positioning it so it lines up with the floor, we can create a child-sized bed that's perfect for kids. Then we can go ahead and give them their own tiny chest for their loot, a tiny furnace, a tiny crafting table, and whatever other little blocks their heart desires. I'll do anything for my son. If you thought giants were big already, well, how about you try modifying their scale? Since we can multiply a mob's size up to 16 times with the attribute command, we can take the regular 12-block tall giant and turn him into an unbelievably huge 192-block tall behemoth. This guy is so unbelievably massive that he requires a whole 44 by 44 block field in order to stand flat on the ground. And if he was standing at y equals 0, where stone turns into deep slate, the top of his head would literally be touching the clouds. For reference, this is a normal giant next to it, and this is a normal zombie next to them. Holy moly! What's great about item displays is that they can actually go inside of blocks. So by simply putting a spruce sapling and a snowball inside of a white stained block, we have this cute little snow globe, complete with a pine tree and a tiny igloo. We can add even more spruce saplings of varying sizes to create a whole forest inside, as well as some ice blocks for a tiny frozen lake, some pale oak buttons for the actual falling snow, and a totem of undying for a little guy who lives in the igloo. It'd probably take a while to position all of those item displays in there, but it would totally be worth it for the final result. This is the world's largest redstone repeater, and it actually works. You might think making a functioning giant repeater is pretty easy, but you have to remember, this was built without using an actual repeaters and the redstone itself, and had to be built to emulate all of the repeater's functionalities, including changing its delay when you right-click and locking it with another repeater. This means that what seems like a pretty simple redstone component is actually full of a bunch of really complicated redstone circuits. Yet despite that, the whole thing works exactly like a real repeater does. It's pretty cool that this is even possible, but I think I'll stick to just crafting my repeaters using some stone and redstone torches instead of wasting all of my iron on a ton of pistons. If you're gonna build yourself a dirt house, then don't settle for a tiny lopsided cube. We now have a wide variety of dirt-like blocks at our disposal for building, like rooted dirt, coarse dirt, and dirt paths. So why not go above and beyond and build a more detailed dirt mansion? We have just enough of a variety in color to at least do a little shading and detailing. So in the neighborhood of dirt homes, you'll be the richest hermit in town. Of course, getting your hands on all these different types of dirt blocks from the start of the game isn't exactly easy. So at that point, you may as well just find yourself some other blocks to build with instead. If you're exploring an ancient city and you've accidentally summoned a warden, then don't freak out! All you have to do is craft some trapdoors. For some reason, most mobs aren't actually able to jump over trapdoors from one side. So by creating a tiny pen out of open trapdoors and then luring the warden in, we can easily keep it trapped here indefinitely, making it easy for us to go ahead and remove all the shriekers to make the ancient city totally safe. Of course, if we aren't careful, the warden can always hit us with his sonic boom. But if you keep your distance, this guy will eventually despawn. And what was once Minecraft's scariest location will now become one of its safest. You've seen small bases, but have you ever seen a base that was literally 1 block in size? Okay, maybe base is a strong word, but still, with just placing a single composter with a trapdoor on top, we can instantly pop up this tiny little box, which by closing the trapdoor, we can actually stand inside, completely safe from any nearby threats. It may not have a bed or chest or crafting table or, well, anything. But hey, a home's a home. What's the tallest block in Minecraft? Well, you could go with the door since it's a full 2 blocks tall, but this is kind of cheating. Because technically in the game's code, the top and bottom of the door are treated as 2 separate blocks that spawn together. And with cheats, it's actually possible to separate the top half from the bottom half. So instead, we might consider fences and walls. These blocks have hitboxes that are 1.5 blocks tall, making it so you can't jump over them. However, visually, both walls and fences still aren't any taller than a regular block, so I think we can do better. So how about the lectern? This block extends about 2 pixels above the block space it occupies, which is impressive. But the decorated pot, on the other hand, has a little spout at the top that stretches 4 pixels above its hitbox, making it a total of 20 pixels tall. You might think we can't get any better than this, but there is one more block whose model is even taller. I give you the banner. Banners are a little over 29 pixels tall, and unlike doors, they only take up 1 block space. That means banners definitely win the title of Minecraft's tallest block. The tadpole is Minecraft's smallest mob, and it's so small it literally fits in the space between a cauldron's legs. So imagine how tiny it's gonna be when we make it smaller with the scale attribute command. Where'd it go? No, it didn't disappear, it's right in front of us. There, can you see it now? This tadpole is so impossibly small that I honestly don't even have a good thing to compare it to. It's obviously smaller than a pixel on a block, so I guess the best thing I could compare it to is a pixel on a block that's been placed in an item frame. Yeah, that's the closest thing to the size of this tadpole. Absolutely insane. For a long time, the community has interpreted the red part of the Iron Golem's eye as its pupil, with plenty of fan animations depicting the golem in this way. But as it turns out, the red part was originally meant to be the color of the eyeball itself, and the golem is actually meant to have a black pupil, as can be seen in this animated piece of promotional artwork. What's the shortest block in Minecraft? At first, you might think it's a trapdoor, but think again! A trapdoor is 3 pixels tall, while a snow layer is only 2 pixels tall. But then again, a carpet is even shorter at only 1 pixel tall. So, does it get any shorter than that? Well, a pressure plate is also 1 pixel tall, but when you stand on it, it's just half a pixel tall. Surely there's nothing shorter, right? Right? Well, as it turns out, there actually is. The lily pad is so short, it's practically as thin as a piece of paper. So, there you have it. Lily pads are the shortest block in Minecraft. When building redstone contraptions that use hoppers, it's easy to waste a ton of iron just moving items from one place to another. But if you want to cut your iron usage in half when moving items downward, try replacing half of the hoppers with chests. When placed in an alternating pattern like this, the items are still able to flow all the way down. So you won't have to worry about finding another iron vein to mine out just to connect your sugarcane farm to your storage room. By using a copper grate, we can put our pets into cages. First, we make our pets sit and place a copper grate above them with a piston angled down into the grate. Then when we power the piston, our pet will be trapped inside! This works because copper grates are considered to be a transparent block, meaning they won't suffocate the mob inside and cause it to take damage. We could then add some extra details with a trapdoor on top to finish it off. Alternatively, we could use a mangrove root block instead to make it look more like a wooden cage instead. I swear, I'm doing this because I love you. The overpowered mace can send you into orbit with a single hit. Normally, when you hit a mob using a mace enchanted with wind burst, you'll be sent up in the air, allowing you to fall back down and chain multiple mace hits in a row. The higher the enchantment level, the higher wind burst sends you. So by using commands to obtain a mace with wind burst 100, we can smack a mob and get sent over 1,300 blocks into the sky. As amazing as this is, it's not exactly very convenient, as you're probably going to have a hard time landing your hit when it takes over 20 seconds to land back on the ground. What if every pixel in Minecraft was an entire block? Well, that's exactly the question that Nuba sought to answer, and they did, by building this entire island at 10 times the scale of a normal Minecraft world. Well, technically it's 16 times, but that's not important. Anyways, at this size, a single large block contains 4,096 regular blocks inside, so destroying this one oak log will probably give you more wood than cutting down an entire forest. What's extra special about this map is that it's actually completely beatable, with a giant nether build and a giant end build, complete with a dragon to defeat. Even though there are plenty of resources at your disposal here, actually playing this map all the way to the end is sure to be a huge challenge, literally. By using the immersive portals mod, we can create what looks like a tiny village full of villagers sitting on top of a single block. And since we can interact with the entire thing from above, it's almost like we're the god of our very own Minecraft version of The Sims. Of course, in The Sims, you can't pour buckets of lava on all of the houses or drop TNT on random villagers, so maybe it's less like The Sims and more like torturing ants in an ant farm. Have you ever accidentally tripped off a ledge and taken a ton of damage and wondered how many blocks you fell from? Well, if this was the spot you tripped, it would have been over 200 blocks. This tree is sitting way at the top of a cliff on a shattered savanna, and if you stand on the edge of the tree and just walk one block forward, forward, you'll plummet 239 blocks down into the caves below, making it the longest one-block drop-off in all of Minecraft. What would it look like if you had a firework with every single effect on it? Normally, there isn't a way to do this, as we can only put a maximum of 7 firework styles on a rocket in survival mode. But by using commands, we're able to obtain a special rocket with so many effects that they can hardly fit on the screen, even with your GUI scale turned down as low as it goes. So I'm sure you're wondering, what does it look like when we set it off? Well, if you're expecting the most beautiful firework you've ever seen, then be prepared to be disappointed. Instead, it just spits out a bunch of ugly, multicolored particles all at once, making a nonsensical mess of color that would just be a waste of resources if you could actually craft it. However, it does make for a pretty good weapon, since every effect makes a firework deal even more damage. How big can a nether portal get? Well, technically, you can really only make a portal 23 by 23 blocks, because if you try to light a portal any bigger than that, the game just won't let you. But if you're Luigi Tone, this limit won't stop you because they decided to build the largest scale version of a typical 4x5 portal that's ever been made, constructed using over 3 million blocks of obsidian. Since the final build was literally too big to be lit, you had to use several smaller portals on the inside to actually fill in the portal blocks. The fact that this build makes the largest portal in Minecraft look small by comparison really just goes to show how insane this project is. I'm way too lazy to even think about collecting 3 million of any block, let alone obsidian of all things. Some zombies and skeletons can pick up some armor and tools, but the chances of this are random, so it doesn't happen with every single one that spawns. However, piglins are an exception, and every single piglin that spawns is able to pick up your items. This is even true for baby piglins, despite the fact that they aren't even able to attack the player. But don't worry, because just like any mob that takes your items, you can easily get them back by simply killing the mob that has them. That is, if you want to attack a child. You monster! Getting in and out of your animal pens can be really annoying, and while there are some tricks like using carpets to easily get in and out without letting your animals escape, I think I prefer more of an open floor plan. You see, by spacing out our fence posts on a diagonal, they aren't actually connected to each other, meaning there are gaps between each post that we can walk through, while our animals are still left stuck on the inside. This solution is almost perfect for most cases, but if you ever decide to breed your mobs, you might end up with babies that are just small enough to squeeze through if you aren't careful. So don't say I didn't warn you! I've always thought it'd be pretty cool if Mojang added volcanoes to the game, but I guess it turns out they already did. This sea generated a ruined portal at the peak of one of these stony peaks, and due to the lava pools that generate with ruined portals, it makes this look like a magma-filled mountain just waiting to explode. Luckily, that isn't actually the case, because there's a village right at the base of the mountain. So if there were to be an eruption here, the villagers of this town would end up becoming the next Pompeii. Pitcher pods were the first crop added to the game that when grown stands at 2 blocks tall. So it raises the question, what's Minecraft's tallest plant? Well, one of the first things that comes to mind is the huge mushrooms, which when grown can stand at a maximum of 13 blocks tall. But this doesn't feel like it should count, since technically mushrooms aren't even plants, and huge mushrooms can't grow naturally without bone meal. Regardless, mushrooms wouldn't win anyways, since bamboo is able to grow up to 16 blocks tall. And better yet, chorus plants can get up to 20 blocks tall. So we could leave it there and say chorus plants are the winner here, but we have to remember that trees are also plants, and the mega pine variant of the spruce tree can sometimes grow up to be 30 blocks tall. This feels like it should be our winner, but hilariously, the jungle tree is actually able to grow up to 31 blocks tall, beating out its spruce cousin by a single block. What an embarrassing loss for the mega pine. You should be ashamed of yourself! Pistons are one of Minecraft's most recognizable features, being the driving force behind many big redstone contraptions nowadays. But believe it or not, this staple feature originally started off as a mod. These original pistons looked like iron blocks, and besides just being able to push blocks like pistons do now, they could actually launch mobs into the air as well. Mojang thought the piston mod was so cool that they wanted to add their own versions of pistons to Minecraft officially, and they even reused some of the mod's code to do it. A part of me wishes pistons could still launch you in the air like they used to, but at least we have slime blocks to still make this possible. Minecraft actually used to be a stealth game. Well, sort of. You see, back in the day when 2-block tool plants were first added to the game, like peonies, tall grass, and sunflowers, you were actually able to hide inside of these plants, preventing monsters from being able to see you. So if a zombie was chasing you and you quickly jumped into some tall grass, all of a sudden you'd just be completely safe. Even skeletons would stop firing at you if they couldn't see you from behind a rose bush. Unfortunately, this bug was eventually deemed a little too overpowered and was patched out in Minecraft 1.9. So don't think that your little sunflower is going to keep you safe from the wither anymore. There are very few baby mobs that can't spawn naturally, and there's one that you might not even know exists at all. When a wandering trader spawns, it has 2 trader llamas attached to it with their unique textures. And if you actually breed these 2 using hay bales, you'll end up with a baby trader llama. I guess these animals are born with their sick outfits. Or maybe it's just a really cool fur pattern they have. Slimes can already get pretty small if you split them in half, but unfortunately after splitting them twice, they can't get any smaller. But by using the attribute command, we have a way to create a slime that's so microscopic, you might not even notice it's there. This little guy is literally smaller than a single pixel, and if you had him on grass, you honestly might mistake him for a grass particle due to how small he is. Besides instant health, regeneration, and fire resistance, most of Minecraft's potions tend not to get used during combat. But surprisingly, there's one potion no one ever thinks to use that's so overpowered, it will literally make you invincible to most mobs. No, I'm not talking about the potion of the Turtle Master. I'm talking about the potion of weakness. Weakness causes mobs to deal 4 fewer points of damage on every hit, and since mobs like zombies, spiders, and slimes only deal 4 damage, even in hard mode, then this effectively completely cancels out all attacks from these mobs. Of course, if you accidentally hit yourself with the potion too, it might take a while for you to actually defeat any of the mobs, so it'll be an awkward few minutes when you all just sit around waiting for the fight to continue. Have you ever seen this block in Minecraft? Well, if so, then you're definitely breaking the rules. No, this isn't the Temu version of a lucky block. This is actually Minecraft's placeholder block that it generates whenever the game isn't sure what block is supposed to be placed in the world. You see, if you were to play Minecraft in an older version of the game, then newer blocks like pale oak trees and crafters wouldn't be able to exist. So Mojang added a way to tell the player that they're probably doing something they shouldn't be by replacing all blocks from future versions with this question mark block. It actually used to say update to tell players they should update their game to fix the problem, but I guess they decided bright green text on a noisy brown background was a little too hard to read, so they just slapped a question mark on it instead. Although the honey block may seem normal at first, there are several things you can't place on them, like buttons, levers, torches, or pressure plates. This is because despite the fact it looks like a regular 16 pixel wide block, its hitbox is technically only 14 pixels wide and 15 pixels high, making it have the same hitbox as a chest. So if you can't place it on a chest, you can't place it on a honey block either. Funny enough, Bedrock Edition shows you the actual hitbox of the honey block when you look at it. But despite this, you actually are able to place buttons and pressure plates on them. Man, this is getting confusing. Although mobs like baby sheep, baby cows, and baby pigs will eventually grow up into their adult versions, there are a few baby mobs that will never grow up, including baby piglins, baby zombies, and baby zoglins. If you find one of these baby mobs home, it'll stay a baby forever, which might be cute if it wasn't for the fact that all of these mobs will try to kill you when you aren't paying attention. It used to be a meme that one day redstone will become so advanced that we could create Minecraft in Minecraft. But it's not just a meme anymore. This insane redstone computer houses all of the code necessary to run a simplified version of Minecraft, made entirely out of redstone in the vanilla game. It comes mining, crafting, smelting, working chests, and yes, even the ability to place blocks. This machine is of course so complicated that the game runs really slow, with a single frame literally taking hours to process. So it's not very fun or easy to play unless you make the server run at 10,000 times the speed. Regardless, I don't think redstone will ever get any better than this. This is easily the biggest redstone accomplishment in all of Minecraft history. This is the tiniest mob in Minecraft. It looks like a small beetle crawling across the ground. Here's how you can build it. Just drop an armor stand into a hole in the ground, making sure it's standing on top of a trapdoor. Push a block into it and place some weeping vines into an invisible item frame. Finally, pick any color of button to act as a little bug shell, and you'll have a cute beetle to decorate a garden scene. Termites were promised to be added to Minecraft, and the Savannah had won the 2018 biome vote, and even though they lost, Mojang said they'd still add them in, eventually. Well, 6 years later, we still don't have termites in Minecraft, so the next best thing would be this simple design for a custom-built termite mound. The dirt pile is made from packed mud and granite, but to make it actually look like there are termites marching around, we've put some melon seeds into invisible item frames, rotated at random angles. Now the armadillos will finally have something good to eat. Building a 4x4 vault door really isn't that complicated. Just watch a single tutorial and you'll pretty much have it figured out. But if you wanted to scale up that 4x4 vault door to use mega blocks, well, that's a lot more challenging. But as you can see here, not impossible. With a bunch of flying machines to carry the facade of the blocks in unison, craftymasterman was able to create a supersized version of a regular piston door to scale, with an accurate opening sequence too. He even went out of his way to recreate the movement of pistons that you can barely see in the finished door, which is really commitment to the concept. The largest functioning beacon in Minecraft is only 4 layers tall, requiring 164 blocks to construct. But if you wanted, you could just keep making the pyramid bigger and bigger, which may not increase the level of the beacon itself, but does give you room to place more beacons, and better yet, just gives you really cool bragging rights. What's even cooler is building a beacon like this in hardcore, which is exactly what Mudflaps did when he built his massive iron beacon, complete with a huge iron golem holding it up in the middle of the ocean. To make it easier to construct, the entire beacon actually houses a massive iron farm inside, but Kalani made a massive beacon that's got a bit more bling, using emeralds instead. Similarly, a farm had to be made to even collect enough blocks to make this possible, but in this case, it was a raid farm built in the middle of the ocean instead of being built inside the beacon. Kalani's beacon definitely has a lot more detailing with a cool spiral going up the beam in the middle, but Mudflaps does have the epic golem holding his beacon up. So you know what? It's a tie for which massive beacon is the coolest. I mean, both of them are infinitely cooler. I could literally only craft up 8 iron blocks before I gave up. This little bird bath is surprisingly easy to build. Simply place a slab on top of a fence post or a wall and put 4 signs on all of its sides. Now when you waterlog the center block, the signs will actually keep all of the water from spilling out, creating this little bowl shape in the center for your parrots to splash around in. And if you wanted to go the extra mile, you could use an armor stand wearing a helmet to add a little extra detail to the base of the bird bath, making it look like it's got a bit of a sturdier base. Did you know that there's a skeleton in Minecraft? Okay, well, obviously, but I mean there's a secret skeleton hidden in the game's textures. If you look carefully at the top face of a bone block, you'll notice this shape near the bottom, which if we make it a little clearer, you'll notice kind of looks like a skeleton skull. This feels like it could have been an accident, but the fact that it's literally on the bone block of all things really makes me think that someone at Mojang hid this little guy here on purpose. Regardless, I don't think I'll ever be able to unsee this little guy from now on. This is the single largest block in all of Minecraft. Block displays let you make blocks of all sizes, and there's practically no limit to how larger they can become. Here's a regularly sized block display, which as you can see is the exact same size as a regular block. By increasing it to be 100 times larger, we can see it gets quite a bit bigger, but nothing all that crazy. Then if we increase it to be 1,000 times larger, we'll start to notice the edges of the block are moving beyond our render distance. At this scale, a single pixel of this mega block is about 500 blocks wide. But we can go even bigger! Punching it up to 10,000 times the size, that single pixel is now so unbelievably large that it's the only thing we can see, making this block completely impossible to identify. We can't even fly far enough to see the next pixel over, since once we travel far enough this way, this massive block will unload from our view. If we tried to make it any bigger, it would just look exactly the same. So this is pretty much the limit of how big we can make a block in Minecraft. Have you ever wondered how the hopper minecart is able to dispense items into containers below it? Well, there's actually a tiny hole at the bottom of the minecart where the hopper's tunnel is able to stick through. It's an incredibly small detail that most people will probably never notice on their own, as there aren't many times you're actually able to see the underside of a minecart. But it's fun to know that it's there because it actually makes a ton of sense. I always thought the items are somehow magically traveling through the bottoms of the minecart or something. At first glance, you might not think much about this spawn point. We're in a dark forest, there's a woodland mansion, and there's a mesa nearby, so what's the big deal? Well, zooming out, we can see that this spawn point takes the shape of a massive green heart, with rivers and sand perfectly outlining the heart's border. No, this wasn't built by hand. It was found by complete luck by user kill steps. I guess the RNG gods just felt like showing them some love that day. Sadly, this seed no longer works on modern versions, so I won't be able to experience what it's like to feel loved. Banners are one of the only ways to have to customize the textures of blocks in-game, so it's a little annoying that they only come in one size. But by putting a banner on the head of a small armor stand and making it invisible, we have a bite-sized banner perfect for more intricate decorating. You could even put the banner in the armor stand's hand for an even tinier banner. This thing is so small, it's more of a piece of paper than an actual banner. Since sand is one of the only common resources that is literally impossible to farm, the technical Minecraft community has worked long and hard to find the best way to duplicate sand using exploits. But with this insane contraption, I think they have taken it a little too far. Harnessing the power of the M portal, this baffling sand duplicator manages to generate over 100 sand blocks every single second. Yeah, you heard me. 100 sand every second. That's 420,000 sand every hour, which is so much more than I would ever know what to do with. I guess I'll have to start eating sand now. For some designs, you might want more detail than a slab can provide, so in this case, you might be better off adding trapdoors into the mix. A trapdoor is kind of like an even slimmer slab if you think about it. And what's even better is that they can be placed vertically, unlike slabs can. I guess the only problem with building out of trapdoors is that your friends can come by and flip them all, messing up the look of your build. But if you're like me and have no friends, then this building track is perfect! I'm so lonely. Pulling an MLG water bucket clutch is tough, but it's worth it, since water completely negates all fall damage. However, lava is a slightly different story. While lava does slow you down and can reduce your fall damage from a lesser height, it only slows you down to a certain point. So the higher you fall from, the more lava you'll need to actually avoid taking damage. Though by the time you're jumping into a 5-block deep pool of lava, I think you have bigger problems than fall damage. Of every mob in Minecraft, which is the tallest? Well, to start off, we have camels. Camels have some pretty long legs, allowing them to easily walk up to 1.5 block inclines, sitting at 2.375 meters tall. The wither skeleton, however, comes in just a tiny bit taller than the camel at 2.4 meters, but we can go much taller than this. The creaking and the iron golem are both a good amount taller than a wither skeleton, sitting at 2.7 meters tall. Yet we can go just a little taller with the enderman and warden, getting us up to 2.9 meters. And past 3 meters, well, we've got the wither at 3.5 meters tall, and then the ender dragon destroying all competition at a whopping 8 meters tall. Though there is one more mob that's even taller than this, and in retrospect, it probably should have been obvious that this one was the winner based on its name. The giant, a secret mob you can only spawn in with commands, stands at a total of 12 meters tall, officially making it Minecraft's tallest mob. It would also win the title of Minecraft's most boring mob, since it doesn't even attack you or walk around, and can only stand still and do nothing. Although honey bottles are kind of useless, everyone knows honey blocks can be incredibly important, so it's pretty good to have a large supply of honey at hand. But believe it or not, you don't need to spend hours constructing some super elaborate bee farm, or spend days manually collecting the honey yourself. With just a hopper, a dispenser, a comparator, and some redstone dust, you can easily make an automatic honey farm like this. This thing is so easy to build, and you can connect as many of them as you want together side by side, and create as large of a honey farm as you want. Bonus points if you add an automatic crafting system on the other end to convert the honey bottles into blocks. Using block display entities, we're able to create smaller versions of blocks, and through the help of mods and plugins, we can actually automatically convert our builds into smaller versions built using block displays. We could shrink a whole village and stomp around to feel like a giant, or we could design miniature statues that we can use to decorate our base. What's extra fun is the fact that we can use the attribute command to shrink ourselves down and actually enter this super tiny house. I guess the only problem is that none of these are actually real blocks, so you can't interact with them in any way. Still, this definitely opens up the door to many new creative visuals. Tall flowers are usually 2 blocks tall, but under rare circumstances, they can be made shorter as a result of Minecraft's terrain generation. Since flowers are one of the first things that generate in the world, then when other features like ponds get loaded in, they end up overwriting other blocks, which can include the lower halves of tall flowers like peonies, resulting in flowers that are not only cursed because they're floating, but also cursed since it's usually impossible to make a taller flower into a small flower. It honestly makes me wish we could actually build with these versions of the tall flowers. This is Mojang's official depiction of what Minecraft's overworld would look like from space. It comes from the 2023 April Fool's update called the Vote Update, where players could vote on what features they want added to the game. One of those features is a new moon dimension, where if you look into the sky, you can see a planet, meant to represent the regular overworld. Man, every build you've ever made, every biome you've yet to explore, all visible as a little square in the sky? Or is it a cube or an octagon? Or maybe it's actually in the shape of a teapot. You know what, I'm starting to think that this depiction of the overworld may not be super official after all. When you fall in Minecraft, particles from whatever block you landed show up at your feet. But if you land on a lily pad, instead of getting lily pad particles, you'll actually create these water particles. This is just a giant scale model of a piston, right? Wrong! Because at the flick of a lever, this supersized piston will actually extend out. Then once we flip the lever, the piston retracts. How crazy is that? It works by using an absolute fleet of slime block flying machines all sitting next to each other, each moving a tiny part of the piston's outside texture in sync to create the illusion of a giant moving block. The one downside to this, of course, is the fact that this piston is painstakingly slow to watch it extend and retract. But the fact that this is something you could just build in survival without any cheats is absolutely mind-boggling to me. People love building crazier and crazier piston doors using unbelievable obscure redstone mechanics. But what's the largest piston door possible? Well, given that the Minecraft world is only 384 blocks tall, that would be the theoretical limit to how big a square door can be. So I give you the largest possible piston door in Minecraft, created by Lord John 25, and coming in at a total size of 384 by 384 blocks. It It does take a ridiculous amount of time to fully open, but given that you really only need the door to be slightly cracked to actually walk through, you can probably go off on a single mining adventure and be back before this thing actually finishes opening, at which point you can close it up again, and then probably need to go back out before it actually closes. Yeah, there's really nothing practical about having a door this big, but it is pretty cool to brag about. Mud is the most revolutionary block for sugarcane farms has ever been. This is because it's actually not a full block. If you stand in it, you'll notice your feet sink in it a little bit, so you're slightly shorter than when you're standing on a regular block. Despite this smaller hitbox, sugarcane is actually still able to grow on top of mud, and this is a huge deal for one reason. Hoppers! You see, while hoppers aren't able to pick up items that are sitting on top of a regular block, they can pick up items through blocks that have smaller hitboxes. So if you create an automatic sugarcane farm using mud instead of dirt, all of the items that fall can be easily collected with a hopper directly under the mud, meaning that the farm is completely lossless. Man, I'm gonna eat so much sugar! One of the things that makes the Wither boss fight challenging is the armor it obtains halfway through the fight, making it completely impervious to ranged attacks like arrows and tridents. But now that we have the mace, we have a super powerful melee option to take the Wither down quickly. You see, by combining wind breath and density, we're able to hit the Wither and send ourselves up, which also causes the Wither to start following us into the sky. This means that when we hit it a second time, it'll send us even higher, causing our mace to deal even more damage. Now, as long as we continue hitting our mace swings, we'll be able to defeat the Wither in just 5 hits. Though if you do end up missing one of those hits, just make sure you have a bucket in your hotbar to save yourself from instantly dying to fall damage. Concrete is one of the most annoying blocks to work with in Minecraft, since after crafting it, you have to manually convert every block of concrete powder into hardened concrete by physically placing it in the world next to some water. While there are some very fancy redstone machines you can build to do this automatically, none of them get quite as simple as this. With just an observer, a dispenser, and a mangrove root block, we can easily make an automatic concrete converter, which works by pointing your cursor at this bottom block and pressing and holding left and right click. Now every time you place and mine a piece of concrete, the machine will dispense a new piece of concrete powder for you to convert. So you can AFK here for a bit with the 2 buttons held down to fully convert as much concrete as you want. If you summon the giant mob, you'll quickly find out that it has no AI. It won't even burn in the sun. However, if you've ever wanted a functioning giant, all you have to do is summon a regular zombie and increase its scale by 6. Now the giant will try to attack us. Check out this awesome rainbow beacon beam. No, this isn't some sort of mod or trick. We're actually just using glass to recolor them. Regular stained glass blocks are too big to look very good, but stained glass panes are small enough to be hidden inside the beacon beam, and it still recolors the beam the same amount as a full block does. Since beacon beam's colors get mixed, we can place 3 of every glass color as we build the pattern up to create a smoother rainbow gradient. Now, just don't ruin this epic beacon with a stupid effect like jump boost. It's possible to make a minecart move forever without any powered rails at all. No, we're not going to use a furnace minecart. Instead, we'll place the rails in a specific configuration, where the ends of the rails always lead directly into a ramp. This causes the minecart to snap onto the new rail at an angle, making it roll down the slope into another ramp, and the pattern continues. You could put these in a loop to make it a trippy minecart art piece, or you could instead lay these out in such a way that they made a super cheap minecart rail. Of course, it's really annoying to build and significantly slower, so maybe you're better off just using powered rails after all. This is a working rabbit trap. Rabbits will sometimes wander over to carrot crops and eat them, so we can use that to catch them. Place redstone torches underground and trapdoors on top. Plant a carrot and cover it with a carpet roof. Now, just wait. Eventually, a rabbit will fall into the trap and get stuck in the crate. Your dinner! Spore blossoms are great for adding particles to your builds, but an underrated trick is placing them in an invisible item frame. The tree will have small flowers growing on it. Is staying in water and lava safe? Place down water, lava, and chests like so. Then when you let the water push you to the pixel of lava, you'll still catch on fire. Okay, maybe we need some more water. If we upgrade our setup like so, this will surely protect us, right? Nope, we're somehow drowning and burning at the same time. Are you kidding me? If you look closely at some of Minecraft's textures, you can see there are hidden shapes and faces in a lot of them. One pretty weird example of this is in Minecraft's map texture. You see, the edge of the map has this torn and crinkled appearance, and if you look at this part on the right edge of the paper, you might notice it looks a bit like a face with closed eyes, a strong brow, a blocky nose, and a smirk. It probably wasn't put there intentionally, but it's still pretty cool. If you summon a skeleton riding a turtle, the skeleton constantly tries to shoot the turtle turtle and misses. It's definitely not a feature Mojang intended. Ladders are really weird. If you place a ladder down against any block, it becomes paper thin. For a clearer view, try placing a ladder on a barrier block. What's crazy is that it's even thinner than its dropped item form. The same goes for vines, where you can barely even see the texture from its side. If you shrink yourself, can you drown in a cauldron? Using the scale attribute command, you can shrink down, but when you enter the cauldron, you'll pass right through the water like it's not even there. You somehow won't drown in this water. Did you know it's actually impossible to place candles on top of skulls? Well, sort of. If you just place a skull on the ground and try to put a candle on top of it, it won't actually work. But by placing the candle on top of a slab and then using a dispenser to eject an armor stand into the block below the slab, you can put your skull on the armor stand instead of the ground, making it perfectly aligned with the surface of the slab. Minecraft has both normal mushrooms and tree mushrooms, but no in between. So we can make our own by just combining an end rod and a mushroom block. It's a great middle ground from the two extremes. Anvils dropped from the sky will kill almost any player. So what will win, a turtle egg or an anvil? For some reasons, anvils actually get destroyed by turtle eggs, but if we jump on the eggs ourselves, they'll crack apart. I guess Steve's feet are stronger than a literal anvil. This is the tallest woodland mansion in Minecraft. It's sitting on top of this giant cliff at y equals 273, giving the villagers inside a great view of the landscape. But if cliffs this tall don't generate in dark forests, then how is this even possible? Well, since the dark forest biome generated next to a savanna biome, which is able to have tall cliffs, the very edge of the dark forest ends up getting lifted onto the cliff as well, making it possible for the mansion to generate up here. What could be more bougie than a cliffside manor? The warden is the scariest mob in Minecraft, but this baby warden is honestly just adorable! It uses two player heads, one with a body texture placed as a block, and the other with the head texture placed on an armor stand. He's certainly cute, but maybe it's best not to mess with him. His dad could be nearby. What is the smallest gap you can walk through? We can easily fit through 0.9 blocks, but how about 0.8 blocks? Yep, still works. At 0.7 blocks, it starts getting tight, and by 0.6 blocks, we can't fit anymore. But if we increase it to 0.61 blocks wide, we're able to just barely fit through the gap. You can recreate this in survival mode using walls, fences, and slabs to make a tight gap you can just barely fit through. The cake item and cake block actually are illegal. First, the item is clearly a circle shape. However, when you place it down, it magically turns into a square. Secondly, if you count up all the sprinkles on the item, you'll count a total of 7. But once you place down the block, there'll be 8 sprinkles on it. Minecraft's unplayable! Iron golems have a secret feature. Very rarely, golems will offer up a flower to villagers, and sometimes if there's a baby villager, the golem will hand the flower over. Notch added this from an iconic scene in the movie Castle in the Sky, where a robot gave a little girl a flower. This proves golems are gentle giants. Previously, I said that this chessboard was made using the immersive Portals mod, but I found a way to create it in vanilla Minecraft. Using block displays, you're able to create tiny blocks, and I was able to create this board. Theoretically, functional chess pieces can be made as well from the block displays, but I'll leave that up to the pro command blockers to add. Ice spikes usually generate between 15 and 50 blocks tall, but this one generated at 115 blocks tall. That's more than twice the height they're supposed to be. This anomaly was caused by floating blocks in the sky that cause the ice spikes to stretch unnaturally. If you want to check it out for yourself, try using this seed and teleport to these coordinates. Redstone is great for creating contraptions, but having wires all across your floor is hideous! To cover them up, you can actually place item frames and map arts on top to hide the wires. This way, my floor looks clean and stylish. What if you make a drip leaf only world? As soon as you spawn, you'll cause a drip leaf to break. A dropped item will then land on other drip leaves, causing them to break, which will create a chain reaction. It looks pretty satisfying seeing the drip leaf collapsing across your world. If you try to place an axolotl inside of a mangrove block, it'll end up just getting placed above it. However, it's actually possible to put the creature inside. Just place 2 mangrove blocks like so, fill the top one with water, and place the axolotl bucket in the bottom mangrove block, and it'll end up inside the top one. This works with all kinds of fish as well. This mod allows you to have infinite render distance. You're able to see across your entire world, and it's not even that laggy. It works by prioritizing details of closer objects, while reducing the detail of objects further away. It's a creative way to allow Minecraft to render all this terrain. Using a secret feature of armor stands, we can create this hilarious coffin dance build. In Bedrock Edition, armor stands will change their pose whenever they're powered by redstone. So by building a redstone clock using comparators and torches like this, covering it all with carpets, and placing armor stands in these 4 spots, we can have 4 armor stands that are constantly changing their poses, making it look like they're dancing. And if we cover 3 blocks in spruce trapdoors in the middle middle of them, it looks like they're carrying a coffin while they dance. Truly iconic. Inside of the anvil, you'll find a hammer in the GUI, but that item doesn't exist. However, the mace kind of looks similar to it. So by placing one inside an invisible item frame, the mace will look like a hammer for the anvil. What will win? A maximum breaking shield or max power skeleton? Let's try first with an unenchanted shield, and the skeleton breaks it in only 2 shots. Now let's test a max shield. The skeleton barely damages it, but if we spawn a ton of them, they'll rapid fire and destroy the shield in less than a second. What's the highest fall you can survive from without any armor? On normal grounds, the limit is just 23 blocks, but if you fall into a pool of lava, you can fall from 44 blocks up. Beds reduce fall damage by 50%, letting you survive a fall from 45 blocks. Want to fall even further? Honey blocks and hay bales reduce fall damage by 80%, allowing you to drop from a whopping 100 blocks high. How much water is in one bucket? This YouTuber tested it out by building a huge pyramid and then placing water at the top. A single water block was able to fill this entire area, which makes no sense. Iron golems will take down zombies, but will it attack a giant? Giants have no AI and just stand there. But unexpectedly, the iron golem would try to kill the giant. This is because giants are classified as hostile creatures by the game's code. Can a single pixel of water drown you? If you place chests and wall blocks like so, then jump into the water, you'll just get pushed upwards. Even using a trapdoor to force yourself into the water won't let you drown. That's because to drown, the entire upper half of your body needs to be submerged. As long as any part of your upper hitbox is out of the water, you'll be able to breathe. This is the longest mountain range in all of Minecraft, at over 1,500 blocks wide. These mountains have been called the Himalayas of Minecraft. The mountains are so vast that the only way to even appreciate them in all their glory is with mods like Distant Horizons. But even then, it still takes a long time to load. The terrain generation in this seed is so crazy, it almost feels like we must be playing with mods. Okay, this is insane. People usually only care about witch huts so that they can tear them down and make them a witch farm. But if you saw huts like these, you probably wouldn't want to destroy them. This witch hut has insanely tall legs that are 117 blocks long. The whole thing looks ridiculous and is probably incredibly impractical for the witch that lives there too. Hopefully she has a potion of slow falling. But believe it or not, this doesn't have the record for the highest witch hut. That would go to this seed that has a witch hut sitting on top of a cliff that has no legs at all. Kind of funny how that works, isn't it? How much space do you need to walk on a block? Let's test it out using a shulker, since it can be positioned between pixels. With just 1 pixel of space, you can walk through easily. Cut it down to half a pixel and somehow you can still squeeze by. But what happens at 1/10,000th of a pixel? Amazingly, you'll still be able to move through. Finally, at the absolute limit, 1/10,000,000th of a block, you can just barely edge through. Push it any smaller though and you won't fit. Did you know diamonds and turtle eggs have something in common? If you check out the outline of both the items, you'll see they have the same exact shape. Can this tiny creeper army kill me? I made them tiny using the slash attribute command, and as they got close, they made regular sized explosions, but ended up exploding each other in the process as well. I'm still alive! Did you know spiders in Minecraft are slightly hovering over the ground? They're actually not touching it. This cauldron is full of candy! By placing 4 armor stands with differently colored leather helmets on top of each other, and then breaking the blocks they're standing on to combine them all into one block, they make the appearance of a big pile of candy. Then we just have to shove a cauldron on top of it all using a piston, and it now looks like the candy's sitting in a big bowl. What's the largest vein of diamonds ever found? Before the caves and cliffs update, diamond spawning works like this. There can only be 1 diamond vein in every chunk, and each of those diamond veins could have a maximum of 10 blocks. However, if 2 diamond veins happen to generate next to each other on a chunk border, it was possible to have a diamond vein larger than 10 blocks. So with this information, 19mrx98 wrote some code to find the largest vein possible, and ended up finding a diamond vein that had a grand total of 30 diamonds. That's enough for a full set of armor, sword, pickaxe, and a shovel. I'm rich! What's the smallest mob? I used to think that it was a baby chicken or even the pufferfish, which is only 0.35 blocks big, but they're both not even close. The second smallest mob is the baby turtle at 0.12 blocks, and the first smallest mob is the tadpole at 0.08 blocks. Instead of huge 1-block gap rivers, try using waterlogged stairs. They offer a much tighter footprint and are a lot better for smaller water streams. Can a bee lift up an iron golem? By running the following command, you can attach an iron golem to a bee. At first, it seems like the bee can't fly, but if you lure it into the air with a flower, you'll see it carrying the entire golem skyward. You can even attach multiple golems, and the tiny bee will somehow carry all those heavy golems. Doors have small holes in them, but trying to shoot arrows through them doesn't work. You can even see the arrow poking through the other side. Trying it on fences and trapdoors also doesn't doesn't work. However, shooting arrows under the gaps of beds and the gap between cauldrons actually works. Did you know the appearance of Minecraft XP orbs has changed over time? Originally, when XP orbs were introduced, the textures were completely solid. However, in Update 1.15, the texture was modified to be slightly transparent, giving them a more magical look. There's a way to break Minecraft's height limit, so it's impossible to place blocks above y equals 320. But there's a strange exception. Some blocks take up 2 spaces when you place them, like the door, rosebush, and sunflower. However, none of these break the height limit because they still take up 2 block spaces. But there's one block I found that works. Banners! They appear 2 blocks tall but only take up the hitbox of 1. Candles are so short. However, a pretty cool way to make them taller is by just placing them on top of an end rod. You can even mix the colors up and try a green candle on top of a bamboo, or even an orange candle on top of an end rod. Prank your friends with a fake death screen. If aligned perfectly, it looks surprisingly realistic. However, make sure you build it properly because even a slight misalignment will completely ruin the illusion. Check out my coconut drink! It even has a bamboo straw attached to it. First, place 4 layers of snow and then put a block on top. Next, add a flower pot and plant some bamboo in it. Now, dispense an armor stand into the side and equip it with a coconut skull. And there you have it, your very own coconut drink. Cheers! This barren wasteland has no life, but if you place a single grass block, it'll gradually spread across the entire world. But to make it extra satisfying, you can also place some mycelium on one half and grass on the other half. The 2 blocks will have an epic grass versus mycelium war. By dispensing an armor stand into the side of a block and placing a button on top, you can create a popsicle. Use different colored buttons for different flavors, but I don't recommend using a stone one. Ew! This is how you break your shield in 0.1 seconds. Just summon a warden and give it strength 255. Then switch to survival mode. Hold out your shield and watch as the warden shatters it in a single hit. Ah! This is a giant crop pyramid. If you increase the random tick speed, the crops will grow super fast, and it's incredibly satisfying to watch the pyramid change colors. But it gets even better. Once everything is fully grown, place water at the top and watch as it cascades down, crushing the crops row by row. How am I climbing this wall? You might guess it has something to do with these maps, and you'd be correct. When you place a map into an item frame, it will cover the face of the block. However, you're actually able to still place a vine into the same spot. This creates the illusion that you're climbing the wall with no visible support. This trick only works with vines and not ladders, as the larger hitbox of ladders causes the item frames to pop off. If you want to give your jack-o'-lanterns more personality, there are all sorts of ways to decorate them. Using buttons or lightning rods, we can give them noses. Using carpets and slabs, we can give them hats. Using coral fans, we can give them hair. And with tripwire hooks, we can even give them funny ears. There are an infinite number of potential pumpkins you can make if you get creative. So, tell me what designs you can think of down in the comments below. Fish tanks are normally pretty big, but if you want a smaller one, just drop a minecart on some waterlogged sea pickles and any fish inside will stay hydrated. It takes up way less space, and in my opinion looks much more unique. You can actually set block a crop on any block, and as long as you don't update it, the crop will actually grow. This means you can grow carrots on anything, like on top of bedrock or even netherrack. Check out this new block. If we correctly angle ourselves, this tunnel looks like a strange alien block, but flying around it, we can clearly see the tunnel. Using this illusion perspective, we can also create tiny diamond blocks like this. Cute! If you drop 3 armor stands wearing carved pumpkins onto 3 snow layers, then shove a block into them and place an iron pressure plate under it, it creates a 3D pumpkin for you to decorate your tables with. Much better than just dropping the regular pumpkin pie item into an item frame and calling it a day. This is a naturally generating half bed. It's a super rare anomaly that happens when a village house collides with another structure like a lava pool. If you stumble upon one of these, you can actually transform the half bed into the true smallest space in all of Minecraft. Can 1 pixel of powdered snow kill you? By building a setup with chests and a path block, you can find out. Walk to the edge and touch that tiny pixel of powdered snow and you'll still start to freeze. Spyglasses are great, but ever wanted binoculars? Well, by just using these commands, you can lay down and rotate spyglasses to create a set of binoculars. Using similar commands, you can even make this telescope. You can't look through it, but it's an amazing trick to level up your desk. Most people think there's only 1 stronghold in the entire Minecraft world, but there are actually way more. And it's not just 2 to 3 extra strongholds. In total, there are 128 strongholds that generate in each world. Looking for a spooky way to light up your walkways? Try these pumpkin candle holders. We start by dropping an armor stand wearing a carved pumpkin into the ground, standing on a chain. Then we use a piston to replace the ground, and then use another piston to push a lightning rod into the pumpkin's head. Now we're able to place some candles on top of the lightning rod, making for an awesome design for your outdoor lighting. But what's even crazier was the hanging root glitch. Just look at it! The dropped item was as big as a fully placed block. Luckily, in the next update, it was fixed, and the hanging root was brought to normal size. This tiny crab was made completely in survival mode. Start by digging 3 blocks down, then stack 5 layers of snow and place a block on top. Next, dispense an armor stand sideways into the block and equip it with a dragon skull. Finish by placing an acacia button on top to bring your charming crab to life. Axolotls can be used as balloons? Well, if you leash a bunch of axolotls and then give them all the levitation effect, they'll soar into the sky, giving you colorful balloons. You can also attach them to a fence to use as decoration. This can be done with other mobs as well, but they aren't as colorful as axolotls. This is the greatest house I've ever seen! It may look normal at first, but once you take a closer look, you'll see it's made of tiny blocks. The illusion works by using a resource pack that turns all textures to be made out of blocks, even catching on fire, and mobs like the axolotl are made out of tiny blocks. If you look really closely at a water bottle texture and then compare it to a honey bottle texture, they'll seem almost identical. However, the honey bottle is actually 4 more pixels fuller than the water bottle. If you get 3 stacks of bottles and put them single file one by one into a brewing stand like this, you can click on the first, second, and third stack to get 190 items in survival mode. Unfortunately, the game doesn't let you store the 190 bottles in your inventory, so it's mostly just a fun trick. But if you drop the item on the ground, a mob that can pick up items can actually pick it up. If you shrink yourself down with the scale attribute command, will you fit underneath a fence block? There's a huge gap underneath, but for some reason the player still can't go through. However, there's a 1 pixel gap for the honey block, and you can actually fit right through the small gap. You can even fit underneath the azalea bush.